So in today's video, I'm going to be answering a very common question. When do I use my flash and when do I use continuous light? So hi everyone, this is Jiggie, a portrait and wedding photographer from the Philippines, and welcome to the channel. So before anything else, if you guys want to learn lighting, whether it be off-camera flash or continuous light, do check out the videos or the instructional videos that are in the channel. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so, and while you're at it, click that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you want to see some of the images that I've created, you could always find me on Instagram. It's at Jiggie Alejandrino. Now, to answer the question on when I use flash and when I use continuous light, I actually have to divide it into 4 scenarios. The first one is all about power. So what do I mean about power? So the question really is, what are you going to use it for? Are you going to use it for outdoor flash photography? Are you going to use it for nighttime? Are you going to use it for the morning indoor? It really depends on how you plan to use the light. Let's say, for example, I am shooting outdoor at 12 noon. When I need the most power, then definitely I will be bringing out a flash. If not something like this, my 500 watt flash, because I need to be able to overpower the sun, and therefore I need that power. So when do I use my continuous light? Basically, it's situations in which, number one, I don't need too much power. That could be at night or indoor. Even during broad daylight, but you're indoor, you might actually have enough power in a continuous light like this to get the light that you want, to focus the light, basically. Well, if you guys are familiar with the channel, you know I've used that term so often, focusing by light. Basically, I use these lights so that I can control the light that's hitting my subject, whether I want to make it softer or harder, or I just want the subject to be the brightest part of the image. And that's actually one of the reasons why I put in a light in a particular scene. So once again, I use this one whenever I don't need too much power. Normally that is at night, and it also helps that these lights are bicolor because I can adjust the color temperature on the fly to match the color of my existing ambient light. And this one is a lot easier, actually. It's a lot easier to use because what you see is what you get. So let me digress a little bit and talk about flash and continuous light just for a moment. Because there are a lot of flash photographers, or there are a lot of photographers who are actually afraid of flash photography, and they say, I'm a continuous light shooter. Well, let's not use the word afraid, but they stay away from flash photography because they say that I'm a continuous light shooter. However, photography is really all about light, and I do believe that using an LED light or a continuous light takes away all the technicalities that you'd need to understand whenever you're coming or whenever you're going to be using off-camera flash, which makes the transition to off-camera lighting a lot easier if you are going to be using continuous light. Well, that's just a segue to, I just wanted to bring that in, okay? So the first is really power. So if I need a lot of power, I will be using my flash. If I need enough power, if I don't need that much power, I will be using my continuous light because this is a lot easier to use. And of course, my other photographers that shoot with me can make use of the light that I'm putting because it's continuous light. Now, the second is actually something that I've already mentioned, which is color. Because color is very important whenever you're doing off-camera lighting because you want your light to remain unseen. In other words, nothing cheapens an image more than mixed lighting for me personally. Well, that is me personally. I always like the color of my artificial light to match the color of that of my existing ambient light. That's why color is important. This lights though, my continuous light, or my flash, my flash, can actually be gelled using stuff like this. This is the MagMod starter kit, and I can change the color temperature of my light to match that of sunset. So it's very easy. However, it's not as precise. If I actually have a chance, coupled with power, if I can use my continuous light, I will use my continuous light because the color of these things are CTO, half CTO, 1/4 CTO, so it's increments as compared to continuous light where you could dial in the exact color temperature that you want. And the newer versions are actually more than bicolor. They're RGB lights, so you could have red, green, blue, and any other light within that color spectrum. So if you want to play around with some creative lighting, of course, LED is the way to go. Just keep in mind that it is also power dependent. Now, there are bigger LEDs, the 300 watts, the 500 watts, the 720 watts, 1,200 watts, but they're very big and very difficult to bring around, which now brings me to point number 3, which is practicality. What do I mean by practicality? It's all about the size. This one is so tiny yet so powerful. This one is so tiny but lacks a little bit of power. If you want just the power of the speed light, the continuous light will have to be about this big. And the battery pack will have to be so big also. So it's no longer that practical to bring around. However, if you are in a fixed set like now, continuous light is the best way to go. So here in the studio, sometimes I actually use continuous light more to explain off-camera lighting so that it's easier for you guys to understand and you can see the difference immediately because it is a controlled lighting scenario and I don't have to lug around the light so much. But if I'm shooting, let's say, a wedding or if I'm shooting outdoor, more often than not, I will be bringing my flash more than my continuous light. But my continuous light will always be in my bag just in case that I am going to be shooting at night, and this one is still very practical to bring around because it is easy to bring around because it's still so tiny. But again, those big lights are very impractical, especially for run and gun type of photography work. Okay, so the fourth and final thing that you have to consider before you decide whether or not you're going to be using your flash or your continuous light is speed. It's how fast you actually need to be shooting. So here's the thing. It's actually, this one is very fast. This one's very fast too. How is this one fast? Whenever you're shooting outdoor, run and gun, all you have to do is connect this one to a light stand and you can run. You can take a shot. Basically, if you know what you're doing, take a shot, adjust, shoot, 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 shoot. You're okay. No problem with speed with this one. However, this one is also very fast because what you see is what you get. But it goes back again to color, practicality, and power. So the speed difference is not really that much. But if you are new to flash photography, then you will have a problem with shooting fast. Because then you would be learning a lot of things. What you see is not what you get. So you'll have to take multiple test shots, so it might be a problem. Especially if, again, I would suggest that you actually practice more with flash photography before you go out for a commissioned work. I'll actually put a video one of these days. I'll put a video out one of these days when I used a flash and I had such a hard time actually lighting the scene that it took so long for me to light it. But if I knew if I had my continuous light at that time, it would have been so much easier and faster because, again, I didn't have to take too many test shots. But it's really dependent on, again, the situation in which you're going to be in. If you have the luxury of time, then maybe I would go for flash. But if you don't have the luxury of time, continuous lights are the way to go. What you see is what you get. However, again, if you're shooting outdoor, you're going to have a problem with the power of your continuous light. You might end up using a flash. So it's really a combination of a lot of things, but both flash and continuous lights are amazing ways to create fantastic images. These are all just lights. In other words, it is meant for specific situations, just like your lenses. You've got an ultra-wide lens, you've got a telephoto lens, you've got your primes for specific shots that you want to get. Same goes with lighting and the modifier. So here's another aspect of things that you have to consider, the endless possibilities of your creativeness when it comes to photography. So continuous light or flash, it's dependent on 4 things: power, color, practicality, and speed. So if you guys have any questions with regard to this video, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And I do hope you enjoyed this video. And once again, if you want to learn more about off-camera lighting, there are tons of videos already in the channel. Feel free to watch them all. If you do like them, subscribe to the channel. And while you're at it, click that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you want to see some of the images that I've created, you could always find me on Instagram. It's at Jiggie Alejandrino. Okay, till the next video.